I noticed more in the earlier variations we were doing than the later ones. A lot of times I was having my foot land on my uke's foot as nage, or
Which
I was
one?
Particularly the very first one we did. Less so on the second one, less so later on, but especially on the first one. And then later that I was just not finding that front of the hip, like I wasn't getting close at all. Like I jumped from being oddly close to being very distant. I'm wondering your thoughts on
So you're having inconsistency in the timing and distancing, okay? So, it's true up to a point. There's time and distance in everything, okay? It is true up to a point, there's rhythm in everything. Okay? But ultimately, time and space, rhythm, range, these are dichotomous. And they come from a antagonistic understanding of you and uke, no matter what. Okay? So what I'm about to say, it's beginner level stuff, okay? What was happening in the first rep is nobody was using the controlling atemi, you see? And so uke was doing whatever uke was doing. So as a learning curve, though, your ukemi is as prescribed as your nagewaza. That means your ma'ai is controlled as well. If they have that atemi there or not, you should not be closing the gap on them. Do you understand? They effed up. You still have your skill set to learn. You don't take ukemi for your classmates. You take ukemi for your teacher. That's the skill. The one who can damage you the most, well, it should be your teacher, right? You want to be able to receive that technique so that you feel that, so that yours continues to improve. So when I was just a deshi, oh yeah, most people are brain farting, right? They're not how I judge my proficiency. They might not even be there next week. So I don't go and start closing the gap on the on the nage, I'm sorry. Because if I did that on my teacher, only bad things happen to me. Because it presents an opening, do you see? Hence the next two counters. Why don't I learn instead what this time-space, idealized time-space is in the art? Because it is weapon-based. And why waste 50% of my time trying to learn it? As Nage is learning the weapon-based fighting distance, Uke is learning the same thing. So you don't want to crowd Nage. It's showing an unawareness of all that's going to happen to you. Instead, learn kinesthetically. I'm always about this far. I'm always about this far. I'm always about this far. Let the teacher correct the nage. Dude, you don't have the atemi. It didn't. Again, remember, Kihon Waza. The ukemi is as prescribed and as idealized as the nage. It's not a free-for-all. That even in this last technique, I made the distinction. The good uke will put their head in the middle. Because that's the prescribed energy print for that technique. Why is that the good uke? Because there's an unconsciousness to the bad uke who's still doing the first technique. Why? Because that one was not scary. Why? Because that one I kind of got to throw myself with some of the nagas here. But this last one, I don't get a choice, I gotta go. Right? Why did you get to throw yourself the first time? Because there was no fulcruming hip in the naga. The naga was just accelerating you. And so you tend to go, well, it's easier to roll than to run out of it. You could have run out of every one of those things. But once they got the fulcruming hip in there, no, you're going over. And sometimes you were with those nagas and you learned that. That's when you landed flat on your back or on your tailbone. Or you learned the other lesson where they're not doing momentum rolling, and now you can't throw them because you don't have the fulcruming hip. So you don't have the other component of the topsy-turvy effect, you see? They're not being jerks. The running momentum ukes were being the jerks. They're the ones ruining your practice. Unless you put that hip in there. You make them want to pull out. That's telling you. It's telling you. Do you understand? That's why they're pulling out. Because you're throwing them. So even now I'm uke and my naga doesn't have the atemi and they don't have the fulcruming hips. I'm not going to throw myself. What I tend to do is, they're going to feel my weight. That it's not going to work. And in a class like Kihon Waza, right, I kind of, I'm not resisting their technique. I'm not going yang against them. I feel all the yin spots, right? I'm not shutting them down. We play kind of games with the beginner. So, okay, you don't have it. Here's where you stopped me. And then I kind of get myself in the position for them. Because that's the prescribed ukemi. Do you see that? They didn't get me there. I'll get myself there. Then they can do the throw. Do you understand that? That works because they get to see more of the technique than if you just shut them down or you just pull out. Do you get it? It comes in stages though. So they're not actually doing it, but they're getting a little piece and a little piece and a little piece. Do you see? And they need the exposure for it. But understand the larger mat. The ukes who are pulling out are telling you something. And when you pull out, it's telling you something about you. And when the ma is wrong, it's telling you something. You should go home and go, man, why did I keep stepping on that foot? You see? Why couldn't I throw that person? What were the corrections my teacher kept saying over and over again to me? This is conscientious training. Improvement is now possible if you plug in the exposure duration rates necessary for improvement. But to go home and like, oh, done, and then you get sucked back into the material world, it's a waste of time. But it's so bad a life to go home and think about, right? Conflict resolution at a physical level. That or binge watch Netflix, right? So try to remember, Ukemi's got a role, Uke's got a role to do. And as a role, like all other roles, we probably have to go back 5, 10 other levels to make sure that's in place. Okay? So we gotta go slow, right? To give you time to see yourself as you're doing it. But you have to understand, man, they went slow for me. Because I can't get it. You should be able to tell when people aren't trying. Seems ego always makes it seem like, well, the ego always seems to, on certain people, like, you didn't realize how much mercy was given to you. Because if you did, you'd take more responsibility for how far off the mark you are. But it's always like that. That's who we are. That's what we do. But if you go home and you think about it, and you review the videos, I think most of you remember that story. We always saw my teachers, the idol form, slow because everyone was so retarded in terms of, I can't even see what you're showing me. Sound familiar? And then one time he went his speed, and I was sitting in the back, and the mat is filled with instructors. So like you're in the rear of a movie theater, you get it? You see in the back of everyone's head. He was not near us. He was far from. There's lots of room for him to practice. But he went at his speed, and I watched every head go do this. It is telling me no one knew how slow he was going. How does time work for us like that? Because our ego is in the way. That's why I'm pointing out to you. Please look how slow I'm going. If that speed is generating that much fear and causing that much physical disengagement, I gotta get to work. Do you understand? It's not, I don't know what to say. The foot's not even on the gas. It just idled forward. I got work to do. I can't be that afraid or that disengaging because I can't see the art at that level and at that pace. It will always be false. We already talked about it. The art does use fulcrums and levers, but it's fulcruming gravity against inertia, right? Or friction against momentum. If we're going this slow, how sharp a fulcrum is that? And how long a lever is that? Because what's the amount of inertia and momentum on there, right? How much friction? I'm not seeing the art. It looks like all I gotta do is let go. It looks like all I have to do is move. All I gotta do is decide not to go with it. Do you see? Well, because you're seeing it. And it's in its total bullshit state. And the ego thinks, or allows you to think, that you're seeing true. The ego won't let you go, my eyes are, what's the bullshit? Let me change my eyes. That's what we're trying to do when I say let's train conscientiously. Trying to change your eyes. Your eyes are in the way. They're stopping you from learning, from progressing. This is why I say, look at the results. Because these bullshit eyes will go, I go all these days, I train all these hours, I try really hard. What is your result? Are you progressing? Are you improving? Or are you plateauing? Are you not improving? It's harder for bullshit eyes to see that or to deny it. Do you understand? So you just take lifting, right? And you lifting the same weight, you're not improving. Or you're getting older and your amount's going down, yeah. You're getting worse. It's hard to deny that. You just have to look. Last week I had this on, and this week I have that on, and that now the next. Oh man! It's kind of an irony because I can't really get Aiki and Aikido at the level of being when I become so goal-oriented. But don't kid yourself. That's not the same problem. This is self-analysis. If you look at the Gita, you go, he's not that goal-oriented. He's not goal-oriented because he's not attached to the fruits. But the entire thing is about self-analysis. Dude, look at yourself. Your thinking's all jacked up. How do you know? Because look at you. Look at your result right now. It's effed up. You can't go in and you can't go out. So don't confuse these two kinds of concern with the results. In a way, and it's very unpopular now, but in a way, you must not be as compassionate with yourself as you are with others. If that perspective is destroying you, well, it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard because you're going to have to be very soft and gingerly with how you treat yourself. Right? And that falls right into the homeostatic energy that prevents transformation. Do you understand what I'm saying? I find there are times when I kind of go like, hey, dude, just accept where you're at. And just, but you know what? When I look at that, there is so much huge effort where I finally get to that point. Like comparatively, the amount of energy and work and hours and resources spent beforehand. If you saw two people who were practicing self-compassion, you wouldn't see that level of work on them. As I watch and I've trained people over the generations, I'm telling you that people are way more fragile now. They cannot take the trials of discipline. Okay, you got to work on that. Guess how you do it? Oh, weird. Stress adaptation model. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get on my ass. Whoops, I'm starting to break. I'm going to ease up. I'm back. I'm going to get on my ass again. Oh, it broke a little less and a little later. Do you get it? But to think that you can achieve the results you want and never pushing yourself, always being easy on yourself, staying comfortable, not being concerned with your results or your lack thereof, that's really not going to happen. Ever. You're dooming yourself. And it won't change no matter how bad it hurts or how fragile you might be. It will not change. Through the generations, the ascetics path has often been described as victory over the self. Victory. Not deferring to. And even when you go to the Gita, look who it is. It's a warrior. And look where he's at. In a battle. In a war. The seed of human religions picked a warrior and a war to describe the way. There's got to be a reason. They could have picked anything. But they didn't.